is November 11th, 2025. Okay, and if this is is this your first time joining and coming to the Black House Management page? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, my name is Trey Highpower. Everybody also knows me as 500K Trey, and I am the head portfolio manager here for Black House Management. Okay, now here within our realms, we focus on commodities, and we trade gold, which is GC, as our primary, and crude oil as our secondary. Okay, we only trade these two assets um, in the financial markets, which are both futures contracts. Okay, so right now we're going to be focusing on crude oil, and we're going to be taking a look at the order flow today, and we caught a beautiful play long. Now, before we get into the breakdown, if you don't already have Telegram, please download Telegram right now and follow the group and follow the company at Blackhouse 500K. And also, please follow us on Twitter, or also known as X, in the company name is Blackhouse 500K on X or Twitter. Okay, so let's get into it. So today we were looking at crude oil. Okay, so last night I posted. Let me see. Hold on. Yeah, so last night at 10 o'clock, I posted right here, as you can see, crude oil 1 hour time frame. We have developed tri-session liquidity highs around major key levels $60.50 per barrel. Let's make clear note, this needs to be purged by buyers. We will see what the order flow and PA gives us during tomorrow. I apologize, gives us tomorrow during New York session. Okay, so these were the tri-session liquidity highs. So we had one London session high, two London session high, three London session highs. Okay, as you can see, I have the liquidity at $60.50 per barrel. Now, price was trading at 59.83, and this is what I noticed, that this needed to be purged. Okay, buyers needed to come and purge this out, because this is basically just relatively equal highs. Okay, this is a lot of liquidity sitting above these highs, and we even came up into sweep out last week's Wednesday, November 5th, New York session high liquidity. Okay, so this morning, when we got to the charts this morning at 6 o'clock, all right, we can see how crude oil came and swept out those tri-session liquidity highs that I was already anticipating. So crude oil, as predicted, price was going to purge the tri-session highs above and could be headed towards next major key level, which is $61 per barrel. Okay, so during the overnight session, buyers rallied price up. We swept out those highs. We're in 5 a.m. New York, pre-market New York came and swept out the New York session high with liquidity, which is around $60.84 per barrel. Let's just call it 60.85. Okay, and this is where we started to develop our narrative today. All right, so let me see. So let's get into it. So crude oil 1 hour time frame price action here after the sweep of last week's Wednesday New York high, $60.84 per barrel. Sellers have slightly developed, pushing price back down. Now, my POI for today is going to be the tri-session highs / support and resistance zone / major key level, $60.50 per barrel. All right, so this is what I was looking for price to return back into. All right, so we pushed up into $60.84, which was last week's Wednesday's New York high. All right, and I was looking for the retest back into major key level, $60.50 per barrel, and I wanted to see. This is where I'll be interested in joining the auction if we can get confirmed confluence in the order flow with volume from the buyers looking to rally this market back up. All right, now let's see if sellers can push price back down into these levels, and then we wait for more added confluence in the order flow and the lower time frame entry confirmation play long. Okay, so this was the heat map, all right, that I took picture of. As you can see, price pushed up into 60.90. All right, Now let's go ahead and get down into the actual entry. Okay, let's get down to the actual trade itself today. Okay, so and I'll show you actually that I did take this trade. Okay, so as you can see right here, this is my entry. I entered at, I can't see, hold on, that was, I need a bigger one. I entered at $60.92 per barrel. Okay, after price had already swept out this internal range liquidity trend line. All right, as you can see. All right, and this was live action of the order flow footprint here on the 5-minute time frame. As you can see, I have the bid and ask clusters added along with an additional footprint, totaling the volume, okay, at every single price level within that given candle. All right, and as you can see, price started running beautifully in our favor. All right, big buyer stepping in above major key level, and then we're breaking above the value area high. Okay, I was long 6 contracts. Once I seen that we hit a big seller in the market, a big seller entered the market, I took off. I managed to partial secure 4 contracts off the table, and then I left the remaining 2 in the game, running towards our initial target, which was $61.42 per barrel. Okay, then I trailed my stop. Okay, trailed my stop, and then price actually came down and hit that, and then we came back down to $61 per barrel. Okay, but this was the live footage and live screenshots of the heat map. As you can see, we have 113 contracts. All right, a huge seller looking to push this market lower at 61.25, and once we hit this and I seen that big seller step into the market, all right, with that order, that's when I managed to partial secure, and then I managed to trail my remaining 2 contracts left in the game. All right, as you can see, this huge, all right, buyers, very strong green session deltas, max deltas, and deltas. All right, but I'm gonna go ahead and get out into the breakdown right now. All right, so this was the Confluence Profile 500K model 1 of 1. This is our system that we trade within Black House Management, and what the Confluence Profile consists of is going to be expectational order flow. All right, the dome levels heat map, and price action. So this was a lower time frame, high probable setup. It was a 1-minute subx bull swap that ran for 2R, 30 ticks with a 15-point stop. Okay, so let's go ahead and get out into the order flow now. So we came up and we hit major key level $61 per barrel this morning. All right, $61 per barrel. We came up, we hit $61 per barrel. New York open, we pushed up into $61 per barrel. Okay, sellers developed, we pushed lower. All right, okay, now this is where okay, so it was this zone right here. Okay, so from this high to this low, okay, because this was the high. Okay, we created a high at $60.85 per barrel. This was last week's Wednesday's high. Okay, so we came up, we hit this, we swept back down. Okay, and this level right here when price swept down. This was basically the retest of London high. Okay, $60.55. So let me do this. Let me pull up 2 so I can do it simultaneously. All right. Okay, so we pushed up into $60.84 per barrel, which was on the 1 hour time frame. If we go to what is this level, $60.84 is right here. This is last week's Wednesday's London high, so this is above the tri-session liquidity highs that I was talking about earlier that we needed to purge. Okay, so when we this is where we're at currently right now on the 1 hour time frame, where currently we came and swept this high. Okay, so let's go back down into the 1 minute time frame. Okay, so we pushed price up into 60.84. Okay, and then remember, this was the first POI that I was interested, but I was looking for a deeper pullback. I didn't catch it. It was a very quick move, small window of opportunity. This is what I'm always talking about. It was a small window of opportunity. This was a beautiful entry before we caught it. I just didn't catch it. Okay, I wanted a deeper pullback, and I wanted to see, but the market just rallied up with all the volume. So we came back down to retest basically London high. Okay, and then we took off to the upside. Now, when we broke this high, we came down, created a low, and then we pushed up. So now this is the zone that I'm looking at, from this high to this low, and I marked this out. Okay, so price came back down into this level, and we came back down beautifully into the EQ level. The EQ level was right, where is it at? The EQ level is $60.81. Yep, $60.81. This lines up perfectly. Okay, now once we got $60.81, okay, we had a 1 minute level of supply. All right, so let's go down on the 5 minute time frame. All right, when price pushed down, okay, we really came to mitigate on the 5 minute time frame this 5 minute indecision candle. Okay, so we came down to retest London high. We pushed up, we consolidated for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, roughly about 25 minutes. This was the last bear candle, if you can see it right here. This was the last bear candle before all of that big buying pressure came into the market. Okay, and I'll show you what that looks like here on the order flow. Okay, as you can see, this candle right here at 6:35, this small candle right here was the last bear candle before we had all this huge volume into the market. Okay, this big volume. Okay, and we left imbalance here, as you can see, triple stacked imbalance. Look at all this. Look at how the session delta, okay, got really aggressive right here in this candle. All right, this is where we broke above. Okay, now what I was waiting for, obviously I'm waiting for a lower time frame entry confirmation play. Okay, so now that we have the 5 minute mitigation of this, we have the 5 minute mitigation. Okay, we came down to mitigate this 5 minute indecision candle. All right, and we hit the EQ level of this overall zone that I had drawn out. Okay, this zone, we came down to hit the EQ level. Okay, now what I was waiting for was confirmation. So we came down into this level, $6.81 per barrel, and then we pushed back up. Okay, so the entry was on at 7:45. So 7:45 would be, I entered at 7:45. Okay, so let's look at the price action. I apologize. Look at the order flow. Okay, so we pushed down into this level. We push back up into $61 per barrel. Okay, and then we come down. And then we have this strong reaction down coming to mitigate the 5 minute demand zone inside of the overall zone that I was looking at. So these are two major confluences. Okay, so we hit the EQ level of this zone, and then we came to mitigate the 5 minute demand zone. All right, we also came into this triple stack buying imbalance, which was beautiful. Okay, but I needed to see more confirmation from buyers before I got long. Now what I noticed is that once we pushed back up into this level, All right, on the right now it's the volume point of control. This was the value area high earlier before the market printed more data and we took this market longer. Okay, I noticed that we had 140 contracts right here. 140 contracts looking to push this market lower with no follow through. Okay, the min delta was a strong print of negative 370. All right, now in the next candle, the min delta got very weaker. It got weaker and it only printed a negative 94. Okay, now what I also noticed is that the delta got way weaker in the next candle after we came down to mitigate the EQ level and the 5-minute demand zone. The delta went from negative 352 in this candle, this sharp candle, all right, bear candle, and then in the next candle it only printed negative 77, and then it went to negative 13. All right, so buyers are starting to push back higher. Now, once we got on the 1-minute time frame, once we got the confirmation, okay, we pushed lower into the EQ level, and then we pushed back up, and then we came back down with this red candle. On this candle right here is where I entered. Okay, I waited till I saw a full body closure above. Okay, this would have been on the 1-minute time frame, because right here, as you can see, we have a small level of support and resistance. Okay, these were once upon a time. Let me do bar replay. Start new. Bar replay. Okay. So once upon a time, these were relatively equal lows. Okay. These were relatively equal lows. Price came down. We swept out this internal range liquidity trend line, and then we swept out those lows. Okay. Let me lock this. It keeps moving. All right. Now we push lower. We push up. Okay. We push up, and then we push back down. I'm patient, okay? I'm patient. So we came and now we came to mitigate the EQ level, okay? So the EQ level is right here. We came to mitigate the EQ level, all right? Now, and we got the 5-minute demand zone, okay? So I waited till I seen now price came to mitigate this 1-minute supply zone. This 1-minute supply, why is this a 1-minute supply zone? This was the last bull candle before all that selling pressure came in to sweep out this low. So we have a liquidity sweep, all right? Price swept out this low. This is a liquidity sweep, all right? Price came to sweep out this low. We came to mitigate the EQ level of the overall zone from this high to this low, all right? So we came up, created a high. We came back down to basically test this internal range liquidity trend line, and then we had all this buying pressure develop, and we pushed up to the upside, all right? This is where a lot of buyers got interested, okay, and they rallied the market higher, and this is where we returned, all right? We returned here, okay, and now that we have this support and resistance zone at 60.90, as you can see, it's being used as a level of support. One bounce up. All right, second, multiple attempts trying to break under here. All right, it's holding, and then we came up, we push underneath, and now we're kind of using it as a level of resistance. All right, we push lower, we come up, we have another reaction down. Okay, now once we had another reaction down, all right, and then we closed above this support and resistance zone, that is where I entered the market. All right, so we push back down. All right, we push down, and then we push up, and then once we got this big bull candle right here, this is where I entered. Okay, I entered right here on this candle, this big bull candle. Now the order flow was already starting to shift in our favor as well. All right, because I just don't believe that the move was done. I believe that we wanted higher pricing, because now on the next level that we had to purge was $60 and $61.10 per barrel. So if we go to the 1-hour time frame, okay, the 1-hour time frame, $61.10 per barrel. So remember, we're sweeping out all of this liquidity. We have the tri-session highs. We swept that out. We had New York high. We swept that out. Okay. Now, once we hit $61 per barrel, okay, we still had London high to purge. All right. London high last week's. This was last week's Wednesday's London session high. Remember, we didn't sweep this. All of these highs have been holding with no purges above. London high held last week on Wednesday. New York high held. London high held. London high held. This London high held. Right? So all of these highs are holding, and this is where we came to purge today. So once I got the confirmation on the lower time frame, on the 1 minute time frame and the 5 minute, on the order flow and the DOM levels heat map, and I seen how we had a lot of buyers stepping in, okay, this is what I was planning to target. And I really wanted to come and hit this higher time frame. So we have this on the 4 hour time. Well, it's really on the daily time frame. We have this descending external range liquidity trend line that I was looking to target. All right, which was only 50 ticks. I was looking to target this, as you can see on the daily time frame. This is what I was looking to target after we hit 6110. Okay, so let's go back down to the 1 minute time frame. All right. So we push back up into this level. Okay? This is where I entered. So we came up, we mitigated the 1 minute supply. We came back down, okay, into the anchored VWAP. I put an anchored VWAP. We came back down into the anchored VWAP, and then we broke this high. And I was in at $60.92. $60.92, okay? Now, on the order flow, so we came back down on the 5 minute time frame. All right, look at all this strong selling. 101 contracts, 118 contracts, 145 contracts, 140 contracts. A strong negative delta, negative 352, negative 370 in the min delta. This is how, at one point in time, how strong the selling was in this bar. The bid is 749, very aggressive, okay? No follow through. Why? Because we buyers absorbed all of that. Once we hit this 5 minute demand zone in the EQ level, $60.80 per barrel, and we pushed higher. I was all in on this candle. No, I was in on this candle right here. So we pushed down, and then once we got the break above, I was in on this candle. All right. We pushed back up into the major key level of $61 per barrel. Okay, now I'm just being patient. I'm waiting for sellers to develop the stronger hand. Now, this is where we got the real aggression from buyers, okay? At 8:10, all right, we had a huge buyer into the market. Okay, so 6110 was that. 6110 was on the 1 hour time frame. Once again, this was the last week's London high. All right, 6110. So we got very aggressive. Here in the order flow. As you can see, big buyers into the market. We have our big buyers and big sellers, because we have two. We have a large red bubble, and we have an even bigger green bubble. But look, 292 sellers tried to purge this level. They tried to push the market higher, but it was met with equal buyers. 239, 111 looking to lift the offer. 82 contracts. Okay, so we beat them in this candle, which was very good. Okay, now look how the offer in this candle, look in the order on the time statistics, look at the ask. Okay, the ask is basically the buying volume. All right, there was 1,200 contracts. All right, it went from 325 to 1,200. All right, this is in our favor. above major key level $61 per barrel. We came to hit that major key level 61.10, which was that high, that liquidity high that I was speaking of earlier. Okay, and then we just kept riding. Okay, as you can see, buyers are getting more aggressive. 312 on the ask. Okay, the delta went from negative 68, 14 to 386. All right, this is beautiful. This is all in our favor. Now, what I noticed is, I think I took the screenshot. Now, what I noticed is beautiful. As you can see, we got the big push up. All right, buyers into the market. But as you can see right here, was it this? No, I don't think it was this one. It was right here. What I noticed, this is why I managed to partial secure 4 contracts off the table. As you can see, at 61.25, we have 144 contracts, all right, sitting for a seller to enter this market at 61.25. All right, this was a huge level that sellers were starting to create resistance around. All right, they were really defending 61.25. This is where I managed to partial secure, even though we have 1200 on the ass, 1300 on the ass, but look in this candle, negative 985. All right, the sellers got very aggressive, 1184, and the delta went to negative 199. All right, so we went from, in the session delta, we went from, this is the overall volume of how much volume is being printed on either buyers or sellers. Buyers went from 1500 to 2K. From in this move, in this candle at 810, we had a session delta print of 1500. All right, and the next candle they got even more aggressive. We pushed higher. All right, the session delta went to 2000. All right, but in this candle we dropped. We lost a little pressure. It went down to negative. It went down to 1800. Okay, and I noticed how we had a huge buyer right here. Okay, for 144 contracts. That is a big seller. That's a big seller. All right, now I also can show you, right, 61.25, you can see how there's a dark shade, right? When you see this, or not a dark shade, but a very highlighted color, that's because 125 contracts or more, that's my predetermined preset for here on the heat map. It shows us when there's 125 contracts or more sitting on the bid, looking to on the dome levels, looking to short this market. Okay, so as you can see, there's a lot of resistance that was being held around here, and this is where I decided to partial secure, and we came up basically to the bottom side of this internal range liquidity trend line. All right, so this is where I managed to partial secure 4 contracts off the table, and my target was $61.42 per barrel. But the order flow definitely was rising in our favor, as you can see here. Okay, 60.92 was my entry. All right, now, but another thing that I want you guys to pay attention to, look at the CVD, look at all the volume. So the CVD, all right, so right here, when we hit above $61 per barrel, we came back down basically to retest the support and resistance zone on the CVD, and then we took off like a rocket. All right, I entered 60.92, and then we took off like a rocket. The volume was definitely in our favor right here. Okay, but sellers started to develop around 61.25 to 61.30. That's why you can see I only have 2 contracts running, because I managed to partially secure 4 contracts off the table. Okay, once again, 61.25, I started seeing a lot of selling pressure come into the market, so I started taking profits off the table. All right, now this is what the market ended up doing. So we pushed up as predicted. We pushed up into basically 61.25. It created a new value area high. Okay, basically prices testing the bottom side of this internal range liquidity trend line. Okay, it came around on this area, and sellers developed heavily and pushed price back down to major key level of $61 per barrel. By that time, I was already out of the trade. As you can see, I had managed to move my stop up to 61.17. All right, this is why it's very important to manage. Okay, management is our profession. We are in the business to manage this money. Okay. Now price did, now I had a 15 tick stop. Price did end up running, okay, for 3R. I apologize, 2R, because I had a, even though price ran for 30 ticks, I had a 15-point stop. Okay. So I'll show you what price did here. So price is running in our favor. Boom, we hit 3R. Once this, you see 0.6, that'll mean we officially hit 3R. From our entry to 0.6 is 3R, 0.8 is 4R, and 1 is a 5R trade, okay? So we came up, we hit the value area high, or basically 61.25 to 61.30. This is where sellers really started to develop, okay? We had equal lows right here at 61.14, okay? And they purged that, and then we pushed back lower. Okay, we came back up into the 1 minute supply zone. Sellers rejected, and then we pushed lower. Yeah, we pushed lower, and I was already out of that trade. Okay, so price worked its way stuff all the way down. Beautiful trade, beautiful trade, beautiful trade here. And this was all discovered here in the order flow. All right, the order flow. Now this platform that I trade on is Addis. Okay, so I definitely suggest that you guys go and buy you a license. Okay, and I believe they have month to month, they have 6-month license and a yearly license. Definitely go and download Addis. It's a great software order flow program. And this is what I use. But yeah, this move was definitely taken here in the order flow. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and end the video right there, but you guys already know my slogan. Here at Black House Management, okay, when it comes to financial risk management, all right, our profession is to manage the downside cost of printing high side returns of money consistently through any market conditions. Done correctly, well, an abundance of fruit awaits us. Godspeed. 500K Trey, we out. Blessings.